I'm Betty Who, and you are listening to The Art of Kindness.
Nailed it. One
I
and
put
done.
my host voice on. Did you hear that? That was a
did.
clean tone. I love it. And I got my mic set up and everything. I feel like such a professional lady today.
You are. You look
I can't believe
professional.
it. Shut up.
Look at you with all that behind you. We both have the headphones in, and then we're like, how can I make my hair not look like a ratchet
Look silly.
grill brush?
I know, that's
But
what
it
I said.
probably
I
will.
literally looked at my husband. I was like, my hair's going to look so dumb with these stupid headphones on. So at least you've acknowledged it now. You know what I mean?
You're rocking it. You're rocking it. It's so good to meet you. I'm such a big fan.
Hi, Robert. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm in this little recording booth today versus being at home, which feels special. And I'm excited to talk to you.
You are special.
Betty, how are you doing?
I'm good. You know, Monday morning, we're doing this.
Yeah,
First thing,
we
this
are
feels
doing
like a
this.
nice way to start off my week, to be honest.
I'm glad. And honestly, I won't make you sit here while I record a long, really complimentary bio about you. I am going to compliment you a million times throughout this interview because
Okay.
that's just what's going to happen.
Great.
But I'll do that later on so we can just kind of go into the chat. A lot of people are waiting for me to start like talking about them. And I'm not going to do that because I feel like I would feel awkward
Okay.
if I was the guest.
Sure thing. I love
Unless
that.
you want it. In that case.
Tell me how amazing I am to my face. No, I'm okay.
Well,
Thank
Betty,
you.
no, I can say what I do admire about you is I just feel like besides your art obviously being so fun, it has a purpose, which is just to have fun. But underneath that fun vibe, I feel like you create such an inclusive environment for people and it's really uniting. And we need a hell of a lot more of that in this world. So I just want to start out by thanking
Yeah.
you for doing that.
Oh, thank you. Shut up. Cut it out. Stop it. Yeah, of
can't.
course. Please. It's funny you say that because I think that's something that's always on my mind is like, what is the purpose of the stuff that we all do, creating art? And I think that I'm always in like an ever-changing, having a different experience all the time of like why I want to do it or what speaks to me or what makes me feel like, oh, this is the reason. Oh, this is why we do it. And
This
so I
is
think,
why we do.
yeah, exactly. So the purposefulness of it is very important to me and it's always ever-changing. So I'm glad that at least it feels like something to you.
Yeah. Well, I do think, and sometimes it feels weird to say that kind of stuff because I do think in some sense you don't want to overthink it. I know for me as an
Totally.
actor, especially with auditions, you could start to
Oh, my
spiral
God.
if you overanalyze. It can
Yeah.
be analysis paralysis. So I'm glad that you kind of have that balance of, just fun, but then under it all, there is that mission there. Now that I've
Yeah.
kind of complimented you a bunch already,
sure.
the first question I always like to ask is, how are you at accepting compliments?
I feel like I actually am okay, which is probably not like the coolest answer. I probably should be like, no, it's so hard for me to hear. No, I think since I was a kid, I tried to be very, in Australia growing up, there's this thing called tall poppy syndrome, which is the tallest poppy is the first to get cut down. And it's very like British. I feel like a lot of Commonwealth countries have kind of maybe experienced the same thing where it's like, I remember having a very specific experience of wanting to audition for the choir solo, and a girl was like, are you going to audition? And I was like, yeah, I think so. And she was like, so you think you're the best singer? It's like Regina George, like, so you think you're really pretty.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is kind of it trains you into being like, what? No, me? What? And so I didn't love how that felt. And so I think even from a young age, I've been someone who really likes to be like, thank you so much. Like, I really appreciate you saying that, especially when it's a compliment that makes me feel very seen or like something that I wish more people would tell me that I was doing right. It's like we are all just out here trying. And for someone to
Yeah.
be like, I see you, whether it's like, hey, I love your energy, or whether it's like, oh my God, you wrote this song and it means something to me. I love being seen by fellow humans and then trying to see them back. I love to give compliments. That's like, especially at meet and greet, when I meet somebody, I like to pick the first thing I see about you that I love, I'm going to tell you to your face.
It's so fun, too, because it does change the energy no matter what it is. Even if you're in the checkout line at Trader Joe's and you're just like, I
Totally.
love the pin on your shirt. You can see people light up. And that's kind of a fun superpower, I personally
I
think.
saw a video online the other day of someone being like, this is my husband talking. This is a compilation video of my husband talking to everybody, and it's like everywhere they go, he just like makes a friend
Yeah.
and starts chatting to them. And I feel like that is a little bit me, where I'm just like having a great conversation with the Ralph's,
Yeah.
checkout gal. I'm like, how's your day? And she's
Yeah.
like, wow, thanks for asking. And I'm like, yeah,
Yeah, retweet. Everyone in line behind me is like, I'm actually trying to go
Can
somewhere.
you
And I'm like,
shut
so what
up?
do you
Yeah.
think about the news? And they're like,
Totally.
what's going on? Yeah, I totally get that. And I think it's great that you touched on giving compliments, too, because I do think accepting them is also giving, because it's kind of about the other person, right? Like, especially
Absolutely.
for you, it means so much for a fan to come up to you and say X, Y, and Z to you. And if you're kind of like,
Yeah.
then it's also fine. They're still going to love you, but it
you
makes the
know,
moment
and they
weird.
say never make your heroes. You know what I mean? They like never.
Yeah.
That is weird. And some people are like, you know, I've had my own experiences of going up to someone who like makes art that I think is amazing, and I'm like, that really spoke to me. And they're like, whoa, like, what are you, a fan? Like, what are you, weird? You know, it's like, and it's not comfortable for everybody. And I try not to take it personal if that ever happens. But I am, as sort of my default setting, if I think something's sick, especially like as if I'm a fan of your music or something like that, or there's a song that I love.
Yeah.
You know, because it's funny too, especially in art, and I'm not sure how you feel about this. I'm sure you have your own experience with this, where we do stuff that sometimes it's hard for us to watch back. Like, I have a really hard time watching myself act. That's like so, it feels so good, and then you watch it and you're like, yuck, yuck, I don't want to see it. I'm so stressed. And so
My eyebrows are stuck in my hair.
Yeah, please, someone help me, you know? So I think there's always like, there are things that we do that people love, and in us we're like, oh, I hated that thing, or like, oh, I feel insecure about my performance in that thing, and now you're telling me that you love it, which like should make me feel better, but actually it's just like reigniting my insecurity about that project. So, you know, you have to hold space for people to be like, me to be like, oh my God, you were in a boy band in 2004 and I loved that boy band. And someone's like,
did you
please
know?
don't bring that up. I'm so stressed. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I'm immediately triggered. So there was always room for people to have their own experience, but I'm just trying to spread the love, you know?
I love that. And we're not good judges of ourselves. So I think it's
Tell me about it, sister, you know?
But you know, before we get into all this, because I do have a lot of questions about sort of under the umbrella of kindness, I think this all exists as little raindrops, if we want to continue that stupid metaphor. I would love to know, to kind of set the stage, what is your definition of kindness, Betty, and how do you think it's changed over the years?
I think maybe this is like just because we were just talking about it, but the first thing that comes to mind is sharing. You know, it's like, whether it's you share the nice thing that you thought about them, or, you know, hey, I have more of this, do you want it? Like literal sharing. I think that is warmth to me, is like trying to make people feel comfortable in an uncomfortable situation, especially like post-COVID. It's like weird to be a human right now. We're all on our phones, and then we see each other on the street and we're like, whoa, what is social interaction? How do I do this?
It does
and
not
so
compute.
I think my definition of kindness, especially given how it's changed, how like our sort of social experience has really changed in the last decade alone, let alone, you know, the 2-3 decades ago, like it was a totally different planet and a totally different experience we were all having. So I think that's probably my definition of it, is just trying to create warmth around people so that they feel like they can, whether it's like be themselves more or let their guard down a little bit. I think that's something that I feel really natural at, and that I try to bring to all of my social interactions.
That's so beautiful. And not to undercut it, but if you hear like weird squeaking noises, it's because I'm slipping on the rubber chair. It's
I'm
not
dead.
because I'm just like letting loose because I'm so excited, which it also might be, honestly.
Either way.
But either way, we're having a good time. You're not here. You don't have to be around that. I think what's really cool about someone in your position and pop stars and people that sort of have this international reach is that you kind of get to have many different experiences with kindness. So I wonder for you, you know, growing up, I think in Sydney in Australia, and then coming to study, I think you came to study the cello, which is an impressive flex here in America. I think I played the cello. It's like High School Musical, that line.
Oh my God. Yeah, that was very, I felt very seen by that particular piece of art in my childhood.
Did you? That was my role in high school. Ripper. I played the cello.
I played the cello.
Yeah,
oh my God. And then I
played the
actually
cello.
played the cello. Wow. Look at us.
Look at that. All right. Thanks for coming. It was so good to talk to.
Okay. And let's wrap it up.
And that's the art of kindness. So I just wonder, like, your thoughts on experiencing kindness in Australia and now seeing sort of different parts of the world. Do you feel like there's differences in the way people show kindness to each other and just the way these communities exist? I just wonder what you've experienced like that.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that also goes back to like the tall poppy thing. I think in Australia, it's like, this is something I learned moving to America, is if I'm also, can I swear? I don't want to, I can
let it go.
No. Okay. Because I was going to say, if I'm giving you shit, it's because I like you. Like if I'm taking the piss, as we say in Australia. So if I'm making fun of you, it's really because I'm trying to bond with you. It's not because I'm trying to be a bully. And that was something that like I had to learn socially. It was a little different in America. because that is very, especially in my family, like if we're giving you shit, it's because we like you, and if we're being really nice to you, it's because we're uncomfortable.
Okay.
So I think that's like a kind of, like a social construct that's sort of a little bit different here, that I had to reevaluate my choices and how I was making people feel when I was like, oh no, I'm not making fun of you, I'm trying to be your friend, and it's like, oh, we were having a misunderstanding, I'm sorry. So that is definitely very different from my childhood.
That's interesting.
Here. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like almost like a sibling dynamic. And that's something I think is true in my family, maybe not out in the streets here in America, but in my family, and something we have in common. We're almost the same age, I think. And so we're 90s babies.
Yeah,
and
90s
I remember
babies.
90s babies. And I remember going to, I think it was like Scotty's or some older record store and getting like the Britney Spears One More Time cassette tape. And I know Britney's sort of like a big,
huge.
I hate the word icon, legend for you.
Yep.
And so... yeah. Okay. Well, what's your favorite Britney Spears song? Maybe I'm dancing around that.
Whoa.
In the moment, you reserve the right to change your mind. Yeah.
Okay. My first instinct, because it's a deep cut, and it's one of my favorite deep cuts, because I think Britney, self-titled, the Slave record, is probably my like most seminal Britney record, because it was just like all of the things that were like the height of her, kind of succeeding and being kind of in her prime. Was this album, this Slave for You album. Overprotected is like top 3, if not number 1. But on that record, there is a deep cut called What It's Like to Be Me. And it's like my favorite. It's my go-to all the time favorite Britney Spears song. I think it's like track 13. And it's the best. It's my favorite one. So I've got lots and lots of different eras. I really appreciate her in all of her different forms. I love the knife dancing. I'm here for it. I know that people have a lot of different, I'm just like, there are some people that I've just decided to stan. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
I'm like, hey, today is the day that I make the choice that no matter what, I'm here for this lady, and she's going to post her cookie crazy little dancing online, and I'm going to go, yes. I wish that her comments weren't turned off so I could support her. I understand why they are, because that's not how everybody feels, but I'm constantly reaching for that comment button to be like, yes, queen, go off.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
No, I would watch that live. Like, I would pay to watch those dances live with different props.
Money.
Yeah,
seriously, we basically did in Vegas. You know what I mean? It was like, that's basically what it was. So I never saw her live until I saw her in Vegas, and I definitely could tell that she was like, it wasn't. There were some things that were at odds for sure in the performance, which is I think that she really didn't want to be there, and she was being forced to be there. But she still gave one hell of a show, and like there's nothing like looking around and seeing every other 90s baby in the room scream singing to "Oops, I Did It Again." I was just like, like hit song, the power of a hit song, and Britney Spears has so many of them. I ride for her till the end of time. Doesn't matter. I'm, as long if she needs help, I'm here. If she wants to crash in a guest bed, get away from everybody, that's how I feel. When I watch the documentaries, twirl dance together. I'm like, I want to be her. I want to take care of her. I really, my maternal instincts really kick into overdrive, and I'm like, come here. I've got a nice warm bed for you, sis. We can take care of you. I'll make you virgin pina coladas, whatever you need. She
has such a beautiful heart that shines through. Maybe because we grew up with her and we saw like Crossroads the movie. I think I think the only time I saw her live was the Oops I Did It Again concert.
I'm so jealous.
Which was crazy. I just remember a big bed and she was like on it and they were spinning her and the sets were wild.
Oh my God.
That was a fun time.
Oh my God, iconic.
But I also like Lucky. I forgot Lucky's such a bop. I rediscovered that the other
Lucky
day.
It's so
and
like now looking back at that song and thinking about what it means and watching her at 17 years old singing "She's So Lucky She's a Star but She Cries in Her Lonely Heart." I'm like, fuck, that is art, man. That is transformative.
Yeah. If there's nothing missing in my life, then why do these tears come at night? I bring really up Britney iconic. Too, because I did just want to vibe about Britney for a second, but I wonder were Britney and sort of those influences of pop what kind of fostered your love for the arts early on?
Yeah, absolutely. Britney was my first tape that I had. Same. Oops. No, it wasn't Oops. It was Baby One More Time.
One More Time.
Yep.
I'm still turning the back of it.
The B-side of the tape was Sometimes, which also I ride for that song. Can't tell you. Can't tell you how much I love that song.
Well, you try.
Oh, man. So, she was very influential as culturally, of course, because everybody was just obsessed with her, but me included, me especially. And I think that growing up in the 90s and 2000s, there was so much so many like beautiful small women. You know what I mean? It was like that culture of pop music where everybody was like, 110 pounds. And if they gained 4 pounds, every tabloid in the world was like, she's pregnant or fat. You know what I mean? Like the cultural time that we grew up in, seeing these pop stars sort of like be put under the microscope and have their like livelihoods taken from them in so many ways. And we really did not treat them very well. We haven't really learned our lessons, seemingly. If maybe it's only gotten worse, but I think I learned a lot about growing up and watching art. Like I was studying classical music so much, and I could feel that world, aside from like sort of the misery of it that like so many of those pop stars had to experience, the colorfulness of it, the like the structure of like excellent pop music really spoke to me as a kid when I was like with all these other classical musical kids who, especially like at classical music school, like studying, playing cello 8 hours a day and being like, oh my God, the new Katy Perry song came out, and everyone was like, why do you care? And I was like, you care too, and I won't hear another word about it. You know what I mean? You're lying to yourself if you tell me that you don't love this song. And so that was something for me that I felt really passionate about, leaving high school and leaving this like very structured classical world, that I really wanted to explore the other side of it and kind of the irreverence of it. It's like, it's fun, it's big, it's dumb sometimes, but maybe then because it's dumb, everybody can enjoy it. And then you actually like change hearts and minds somehow quietly. Like theater is something that I also think is so beautiful at that. It's like, you can be telling one story the whole time and bring in all these people from all over the world to come see your shows on Broadway. And at the end, there can be 3 lines of dialogue that all of a sudden like bring a tear to your eye, that just like teach you something about being a human and accepting each other for who you are. And you're like, wow, that's the transformative power of art. And I think that pop music has such an ability to speak to so many people. Your reach is so wide. And so there's a way to sort of, I guess, trick people into feeling something they didn't expect to. When they come in and they go, I expect nothing, and leave with something. And I think it's harder to give people something when they expect a lot. If they come in and they go, I expect to be changed, then you're like, oh God, oh no, like how do I achieve
like, there's another shirt over there if you want to put on a different shirt, but I don't know if I can change you. Yeah, totally.
So I think the sneaky ability of pop music, especially, maybe more than any other art form on the planet, to make you feel something. Whether it's like, I've got a feeling that tonight's going to be a good night, and it's playing on
my favorites.
The dance floor, and you go like, oh my God, I have a memory of being in college at this bar in Boston with all of my friends singing that song. It's like, you're not meant to listen to the Black Eyed Peas, I've got a feeling that tonight's going to be a good night, and be like, oh my God, we are the world, we are the children, I've been changed. It's like, no, but then you are brought back to that time, and it makes you feel warm, and it is... music is the only art that we get to experience while we're doing other things. You go watch a movie and you sit in the movie theater and you're watching the movie. If you go to an art gallery, you're like walking through and you're looking at the art. And music is on in the car. It's on in the grocery store. It surrounds us in all these tertiary ways where we're like, then, oh, this song reminds me of this thing. And it'll pop up in the most unexpected place because music is everywhere. Again, that sort of sneaky quality of it. I really love that.
Yeah, oh yeah, like in the leaves, rustling in the trees, all this stuff. And I really just appreciate the way you talk about pop music, because I think it is dissected in such an interesting way, and we don't really hear people talking about pop music like that enough, in my opinion. But I think sort of what you're getting at, too, is, I mean, look at Bridgerton. It's like, this show everybody loves on a massive level.
Thank you for bringing up Bridgerton. I've been waiting for all morning for you to bring up Bridgerton.
Oh, you are welcome.
I'm obsessed.
You can't see what I'm wearing from here down, but it's a petticoat.
I love that, actually. Me too. Yeah. Same. Cool.
Yeah. Nicola, oh, well, I mean, just such a great show. But the way the pop music is applied in this, like, classical fashion, I think speaks to sort of what you were saying, which is that it can capture, like, really any emotion and be so malleable and attached to a memory. And now we're seeing these songs in a different light, which I think is so, phenomenal.
When I hear that music in that show, I actually feel like it was meant for me. You know what I mean? Like the pop music girl who grew up in the classical world, when I hear like the classical version of Taylor Swift, I'm like, wow, is this for me and me alone? Did you create this just to satisfy some strange urge that I have had my whole life?
Yeah.
I listen to a lot of classical and jazz just because I'm always trying to, I think it makes me feel like, sometimes, I don't know if you have this when you're like watching a movie or seeing somebody perform, you're thinking about how you would do it. You know what I mean? It's like you're having a different experience when you're watching or experiencing something that you do for a profession. And so pop music for me can sometimes live in that world of like, oh, this actually now is stressing me out. And I don't know if you can hear my dog screaming.
I know, little cameo. Speaking of stressed out, they're like,
yeah, that was wild. He's really performing for you.
I love it. Thank you.
Yeah.
You sing it.
And I think the experience of like hearing pop music done in this really like soothing, sorry, should I scream at him? I can tell him.
Oh, no, it's fine.
Okay,
It'll he'll naturally calm down. I like it.
But to hear this music in this way that is so unusual in the way that we normally experience it, and then it sort of like tickles all these parts of me that now are no longer like threatened or turn on my work brain, and I just get to like hear classical music, but then it's like the melodies that we love and know so well. That combo is really like, I think, really special, and it was a huge part of what made that show successful. That first season, I remember people talking like the use of music in that show was so genius.
Yeah, the power of music. So genius. And you have such
it.
a creative genius in general. But I think, one thing, I mean, I love listening to film scores a lot and all that kind of music just for that very reason. But, I could kind of nerd out with you on Bridgerton for a while.
All day.
I do
Sorry,
wanna
we
ask
can
you,
move on.
No, you're fine. I do want to ask you. I'm like grasping for a transition. I have the cheesiest transitions on the show usually, which I'll probably delight you to in a few questions. We'll see.
Can't wait.
But I would love to know, is there an act of kindness that kind of stands out to you as changing your trajectory in the arts?
The first thing I just thought of, I've been lucky and have had a bunch of really great experiences with people that she's so lucky.
I need a version of that.
A dance break, please. Yeah. Oh my God, a Bridgerton version of Lucky by Britney Spears, the way I would gobble it up.
Yeah.
By me.
You
get my cello back out again.
Yeah.
One of the people, speaking of never meeting your heroes, I went on tour with Kylie Minogue, and I grew up, of course, Australian girl, Kylie Minogue. Oh my gosh, the superstar of all superstars, the Neighbours star turned pop musician, Kylie Minogue. And so I was really like, couldn't really believe that it was happening. And about halfway through the tour in Sydney, which was the same arena that I had seen her perform in when I was like 12, 13 years old. And now I was 22, 23 years old. So it was almost like 10 years exactly, full circle, being in the same space, the same venue that I had gone to see her perform. And then I was opening for her in this arena. And her tour manager came and got me and was like, hey, like, come say hi to Kylie. And I was like, okay. And she sat with me and just like talked to me like a normal person. I think it's really hard to be someone who you're like, I feel like a nobody, and I'm talking to all these people who are somebody. And that makes you instantly sort of unable to carry a normal conversation that feels like humans talking to each other. You're like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bother you, and it's like, no, just talk to her like a person. And so she came in and she really showed me what that looks like, where she just sat down, asked me questions. She spent like 20 minutes with me in my dressing room, just like shooting the shit, being so lovely, and saying thank you for me being on the road with her, and being like, great, I'm so happy to have you. And she sort of went about her day, and I was like, wow, she took 20 minutes. It could take 3 minutes of like giving somebody your time and attention. It didn't even have to be that long. She's just very generous of making somebody feel so like seen. And, it really shifted my perspective on how little it takes to make someone feel really good, which I think is something that obviously you're very passionate about. And that's what this whole podcast is about. And for me, what I think kindness is just like, it doesn't take that much to step outside of yourself. And it's not even about like being the person that person wants you to be. It's not even about shifting who you are. It's about meeting someone where you are and saying, hey, I'm a person and I'm right here and I'm happy to talk to you. I'm happy to talk to anybody. And she really showed me what that looked like. Especially when, you kind of hear that, never meet your heroes. And I'm like, oh no, Kylie Minogue was everything that I wanted her to be and more. And continues to be to this day. Just like I see her and her experience in this business, and she's so professional, but she's so warm and herself. And I really learned a lot. I was like, oh, I don't think I want to be mean and scary. You know, I don't think
I'm
that
glad.
suits me. I don't know
Why are you
if
holding
I'm,
up a knife then right
I
now?
know. Sorry. Don't show anybody the video. No, you know, and I've had other experiences with different, you know, musicians and pop stars where I've been like, oh, like you seem not like you're having that good of a time. Like, do you even want to, do you like being here? And I think that's something that we all struggle with, where it's like our expectations of what the business or our dreams are supposed to look like actually hold us back from experiencing our dreams and and enjoying them. And so she's just she's so locked in. She's so grounded, down to earth, just like, hey, we're playing a show. And I was like, whoa, this is who I want to be like. You've been nice to me for 12 seconds and it's changed the trajectory of my life. Thank you so much.
Wow. Well, I love that story, and I think it really speaks to the power of kindness on a small level, like you're saying, because we think of kindness, you know, you think you have to save someone from being hit by a bus or donate to, you know, whatever cause.
That's actually the next part of the story is Kylie Minogue saved me from being hit by a bus. Yeah. Threw herself in front of me. Yeah.
It was my first day as a bus driver, and I apologize. Yeah. But
we were all there.
But we were, and that's why I brought you here, besides Bridgerton. It does come back to you, too. That's a great example of how, you know, we don't do it for this reason, but it does come back to you. And now, I can't say the amount of research I did where I listened to you talk about how wonderful Kylie is. And I hadn't
just
heard
like
that.
always my story.
No, I haven't heard that story yet, but I've just heard you talk about how she's like the best and all this stuff. And you really champion people in pretty much every interview. You're lifting somebody up, which I really appreciate. But that just goes to show it's now like coming back to her because she took the time to do something.
Oh man.
You know.
Full circle. Well, and it's funny that you say that because I think especially when you're like getting into the bit, it's really hard to not be a hater. And I say that with like all the love in my heart of like for how hard this thing is. It's really hard to not look around and be insecure and jealous and like triggered by all of your own stuff. It's never about anybody else. It's always about yourself and being like, I'm not good enough. They're better than me, which makes me hate them.
Yeah, because you can let it motivate you or you can let it sort of like be poison to you. That's sort of
and I feel
what
like
I've learned.
Every artist probably has like those 1 to 10 people that they see succeeding out there in the biz and they're like, damn it, you know, like, fuck, oh, that's another one that like they got and I didn't. You know, we all have these sort of like strange like blood feuds that are totally made up that we all experience in our journey in this business. Oh, yeah. And I think that it was so... I tried to make a choice and I'm not always great at it, but I try. A couple years ago, I remember my husband actually saying to me, like, you're turning into that person who like watches the Grammys and sounds like a hater. Like I don't like who that person is and it's not who you are. And I was like, wow, show me to me, Rachel. Thank you so much. You're right, in fact. And that was like a turning point for me. This was probably like in 2017. I was really unhappy. I was really... stuck in a record deal that I felt like was just going nowhere. And so it was a really tough time in my own life. And he really held up that mirror to me. And I was like, oh, wow, okay, you're right. And so I really try to be like, if something's not for me, I'm like, cool, like so happy for you, not for me. And I try not to intake it or sort of like rage watch stuff. And then when I do really connect with something, I'm like, yes, this Britney Spears, I've decided to stand. I will ride forever for that person. And so I really try to be now like, I look at something, I'm like, oh, this is something I really like about it. And that's what I'm going to choose to see. And try not to do the thing where I let it make me feel bad about myself. Because that's just like, you know.
Yeah,
not
it
enough
affects
time
everything
in therapy,
too.
Maybe.
Oh no, well that mindset does affect everything. Whether you're on the train,
it's infectious. Yeah,
and seeing a beautiful family and you're happy for them and it fills you up, or you're thinking that child's so loud and I'm trying to leave. I mean, there are a lot of ways we can go in this life.
The train will really make you a hater too. You know what I mean? The train really in New York City, that subway will really make you hate everybody. So that's a tough play. I'm happy for if you're finding a way to to find joy and like love for your fellow human on the train. I'm really inspired by you.
What's this? Thank you so much. Did you hear that, everyone? What's that song? I hate everyone. I think it's called. Sometimes you gotta play that by Go-Go. We don't need to talk about that song, but
it's not the right brand for us here. But yes, there's a 3 Days Grace song called "I Hate Everything About You" as well. That is iconic. Yeah,
yeah, it's a screamo.
14-year-old me really loved that song. You know, but that's so silly. Too. We think it's like cool to be like that sucks. You know, it's like it's such a weird cultural thing that we're like brought up with to be like yuck, like oh pop music. I turn my nose up at it, and I think there's always been a part of me that's like, what are you talking about? Like everyone's having fun. If we're all having fun, we're all going to acknowledge it, and I'm not going to be a hater.
Yeah. And also some things I mean, I love weird, and the word weird I have a different definition of compared to a lot of people. You probably have a similar one.
that.
I think in the arts we have a good definition of weird, but I feel like the things that are weird they're eventually cool one day. You know, Dolly Parton, how she started.
Oh my gosh.
People weren't always bowing down to that, and now she's
Speaking
literally can do no wrong.
Speaking of someone I ride for till the end of time.
Oh, yeah. Have you been to Dollywood, Betty? Because
Of course I have. You know, it was really hot, and I enjoyed my day. Pigeon Forge, which is right next to Dollywood, is a really crazy vibe. That whole area is a really crazy vibe.
Gatlinburg, the downtown.
Yeah, wow.
The trolls.
You really have some knowledge of this area. Wow, we really shared something.
I'm worldly. I'm there right now.
No, but I love, you know, I have my own thing, which is like I think why my like hair is different, and I have a bunch of tattoos, like even since I was a kid, and I'm really tall. I'm over 6 feet tall, which for a woman is like very unusual, I feel like. And so when I was growing up, I already felt very other, but then by the time I was sort of like a teenager and growing into myself, I think I actually really didn't want to be normal. There are like all of these things that I'm subconsciously showing to people through the way that I dress and style myself and hold myself, where actually the thing I'm trying to say all the time is like, I'm not normal. I'm different. I'm weird. I'm whatever it is, whether it's people think I'm weird or people think I'm cool, or what, those two things probably actually the Venn diagram of them are exactly on top of each other, but it's just your perspective of how you see it. And I think that's definitely the oddest in us, is being like, no, I don't want to be. Actually, if I feel normal, I'm like, yuck. I feel so like I'm not expressing myself somehow, or that I feel very like a caged animal.
Oh yeah, or like a fish out of water, just like slowly gasping for air. You know, I couldn't agree more. It's like I don't know. We can go down a normal rabbit hole, but
I have a question for you. I just had a thought. You know the story of the rainbow fish?
Yeah.
I feel like you must be familiar. The children's story. Yeah, you know the story sort of for that there's this fish who has all these fancy rainbow scales, and everybody else has like normal, boring scales. And so everyone's like, wait, I want a rainbow scale. And the rainbow fish is like, oh my God, I'm happy to share, please. And the rainbow fish gives all of its scales away till everybody has a scale, except the rainbow fish is like lifeless and sad and has no scales left. And everybody's like, oh, I'm sorry, that was us. And then everybody kind of comes back together and gives the rainbow fish back the scales. Yeah. I sometimes like...
Which I need a music video concept of you with,
100%.
With rainbow scale. Okay.
Honestly, I'm writing that down.
Pin that.
You know, I think that is often a metaphor that I use for how it feels sometimes to like, if you're especially trying to be like the thing that everybody wants you to be, and be that like really warm sort of person that can receive people, particularly in like a professional setting. If I'm doing, especially on tour, like meet and greets, people come with really like heavy stories and intense life things that they want to share, and I really want to be there for you. Do you have any thoughts about like, you know, the price of kindness in that way, where you're like, if you give too much and you're not giving enough to yourself and whatever that is, have you found like the balance of what that looks like? I think as I've gotten older, I've gotten a little bit better at it, and I understand my boundaries and also my wants more. I'm like, no, I really want to be here, and that has changed my like battery life in that space. But I wonder what your thoughts are on that.
No, I mean, thank you for asking me. That was a question I literally had for you, a couple of questions down. So I'm glad you answered it. But I think no one has the answer, and just sort of talking about it is important. For me, it's like everything else in life, right? It's like balance. You know, don't eat too much ice cream.
Totally.
I think if you, because I'm someone. No, I know, same. I mean, do you feel like this? It's like you're being fed off this energy, and you create such a fun vibe at your shows. It's like everyone's doing their wedding dance in the crowd, and you know, but then you don't almost realize that it's like so much that you get home and you can't go to sleep. And it's sort of like that, which is a whole other rabbit hole we can go down. And so I think I don't know, for some reason, like scheduling things sort of helps for me. Like if I know, I mean, it's different for you, but if you know you're going to have like a 30 minutes of meet and greets, then you can like kind of mentally prepare for that. And then after
like
that, maybe
knowing
you schedule
how much
it
it's going to be before you go in.
Yeah. My wife's helping with that.
That's
like the awareness.
Really real. And I think I'm actually a big, like I have to overschedule myself so that I need to know how it's going to be walking into it to like manage it. If I am like thrown off, that's when I get like unsafe inside of myself. So that's actually a really useful thought.
Yeah. Like I know I need at least one night on my couch watching something dumb.
To rot.
Or maybe like a reality show, whatever it is. And just to rot away and eat things. And then I'm immediately like, what am I doing? You know? And something like I really relate to that you've talked about. You've talked about this this fear of sort of like the repercussions. I might not be saying it right, but the fear of the repercussions of not hustling and sort of like stopping, like not working every moment of your life to follow your dream. And we also need rest, we're talking about. How is your journey with that one? Because that's something I really struggle with. Like, not every second. Last night, I wasn't sleeping because I'm memorizing the lines for my self-tape audition. And then I'm going immediately into the questions for this in my brain. You know, how have you found that journey? Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a really great question. I think it's hard when we're in this business when, for me, something I really struggle with is a thought and idea and knowledge. It's like a fact that at any point, like a phone call will change your life. And that like carrot in front of the treadmill facet of our business really messes with me. That's what I think. It's like you can work as hard as you want, but it's like the luck aspect of it.
Yeah.
Someone just deciding one time, you know, or like one video going viral. It's like you never know which one it's going to be, and it's always the dumb one that you think it won't be.
Oh, yeah, that you
know?
spent 2 seconds on.
Totally. It's like, it's so, I think as much as I'm an artist, I envy people who are in trades where you go to school and then you get this job and then you wait and then you try to get your tenure or your residency or your partnership, whatever the thing is in that next step. And then you like, and then what's your next goal? And it's very like, this is how other people do this. Yeah. And this is a path that you can follow. And none of us have a path that's going to be right for us except for our own. And we really have to go find it on our own. So I think,
check my Google history. It's like, what's this person's advice for this?
Yeah,
what's
totally.
This? And they're all different, which is a beautiful thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think for me in this stage of my life, you know, in my 20s, it was I'll sleep when I'm dead. And I'm grateful that I had that sort of gumption, that gusto that I really had in those 20s.
Where I was, melatonin.
Yeah, really just like, let's go. All right. Like I will say yes to everything. I will always be, you know, I missed a lot of birthdays. I missed a lot of weddings. I missed a lot of, you know, important moments in my friends and family's life because I was like, I have a dream and I'm going to achieve it. And if you don't understand that has to come first, I'm sorry. And so I think at this stage, you know, I think finding acceptance, this is the other thing, is that you work so hard to get a job. And then because you've worked so hard your whole life to get that job, by the time you get it, like no matter what that job is, it's never going to live up to the expectation of like 30 years of wanting to have that job. And so I think I'm trying to, and it's an ever-changing battle against myself, but I'm really trying to find how to be comfortable in the life that I have without all the other stuff, right? It's like my therapist calls it your anchor, right? So I think my anchor for me in all through my 20s was work. It was, I am a performer, this is what I go do. And now my anchor is like my home life. It's my husband and my dog and my family and my friends and my, you know, the things that don't change and won't go away just because I didn't work a lot this month. And I think that having that as being sort of the base for everything and going, this is what is important to me. What are my goals in this world? Like, I'd love to buy a house. What does that look like in 2024 as a millennial? You know, like it's never cool in this economy. All right. How do I make that happen? But it's like thinking about wanting to have a life with my family that's comfortable.
And like prioritize too, right? You know, and sort of like we were talking about, it's like we make room in the day or we just follow all these different waves because we think it's going to lead to a certain shore. And then sometimes I forget, well, why can't I actually schedule, we call it a life dinner, some people call it like an hour in the books every week to actually sit and have a meaningful conversation with, you know, your partner or whoever it is. It's like sort of what you're getting at here. And it reminds me of, I think it was someone I interviewed actually from Hadestown, which we're gonna go way down to in a second. And you're from down under, then you went way down.
Nice.
Thank you so much. I just want to squeeze that in there. It's written down. I'm not gonna lie. Who said, remember who you're doing this all for. And I think sometimes that can get so lost. It's always there, but just like that sort of framing, even if you're in an audition, you're sort of feeling like down on yourself. Well, why am I here? I'm here because I love it.
How did I can't tell you how many moments in my career I've looked around and gone, how did I get here? how is this how it's supposed to be? Is this what it's supposed to feel like? But I think you're so right about that, like the who's it for? You know, what I think it's a really important like spiritual life question to ask is like why? What for? What for is always the thing. If I'm going like I feel super unhappy or uncomfortable or whatever it is, and then I'm like, cool, what am I doing this for? What is this for? And then you answer that question, then you go, cool, what for to that question? And you just keep kind of sort of trying to distill it down. And I think it's really easy, especially in our line of work. And maybe this is true for any like business that especially if you're like, I have a dream and I'm trying to chase that dream, whether it's I want to be a lawyer or whatever it is. I think it's our getting there so often has to be self-serving. You're like, cool, this is for me. I have always wanted this. I told myself I was going to do this thing and now I'm going to go do it. And then when you've done that for long enough, especially as a performer, and maybe some performers don't grow out of this. I know that I sort of have, where I'm like, I don't really need to like come into a room and have a bunch of people clap for me. That's not for me. You know what I mean? Like that's not what this is ultimately for me at this stage. I think it really was in my 20s, but now I'm like, sometimes I go to pop shows and I'm like, whoa, this is what we do. Like we dress up in silly outfits, we wear glitter and we come out and like a bunch of people are just like, good for you. Like sing us the songs you made up. You know what I mean? It's like when I really, think too much about it, I'm like, we're all clowns. Actually, we're all just like silly kids.
Oh yeah,
playing dress up. And I think
my biopic is called The Jester. I haven't written it yet, but that's me.
And I think it's very like bringing it down. The stakes feel so high. You know, we've been chasing and working so hard our whole lives, and then it's like I'm on stage.
To everything.
Yeah, and then I'm on stage and I'm like, isn't this silly? You know what I mean? Like, man, like. I've probably been taking this too seriously and had so much heartache over this thing for so long. And to arrive at this place where I'm like, okay, well, if it's not for me anymore, because I've done it and I've seen it and I get it now. If I don't need the applause of these people, like, why am I up here? And that's really shifted in the last couple of years for me of like, especially doing Hadestown. Maybe it's a nice segue.
That's healthy. Oh yeah. I would definitely want to get there.
You know, having that experience of making art that wasn't my own, that was also that's really useful. Cause you know, I write all my songs and I hire all the people around me. It's like very, me all the time. And that kind of like, it's harder for me to do that. I really appreciated the ability and like opportunity to be on stage telling somebody else's story as like a vessel and go, how do I bring this thing to life the most? And now that has helped so much now coming back to my own art, being like, okay, me in my room, I'm going to write a song I think is cool. Then me as the performer, how do I bring that thing to life, kind of detaching from that first part of it? It's like different sections of my brain.
Yeah.
And I think that's really like, that's what it's for, is for the people in the audience. I saw Some Like It Hot on Broadway when I was in rehearsals for Hadestown.
Yeah.
And that show like tickled every single like big Broadway show thing that I love. Tap numbers, you know, like silly goosery. We've got jokes. We've got costumes. Like I was living during the show, having the best time. Yeah. And then at the end, you know, Daphne is like, this is who I am. And I've always been Daphne. And me instantly crying, being like, oh, because this is how you change hearts. And like, it's about us in the audience experiencing these people. They do this 8 times a week. This might be their worst show of the week. We don't know the difference. We're just watching and feeling, and they are bringing it to life and making it alive and making it accessible for us. And so,
and it's not preachy too. And it's, I know exactly the part you're talking about.
It was 2 lines of dialogue that made the rest of the silly goosery really mean something. And that is so, I think, inspiring to me. That moment really spoke to me. And I've been, especially then going from like Some Like It Hot to Hadestown rehearsals, because Hadestown is serious. You know what I mean? It's like, we're not really having that much fun over at Hadestown. It's like, we're really trying to make you feel. It's
still great to watch. And there was a line with Daphne and the friend character, Christian Borle's character, where he was like, but what do I call you? And basically Daphne was like, it doesn't matter as long as you say it with love. Yeah. And that gave me goosebumps everywhere, because that was such a simple answer.
I think I was crying. Jay Harrison Key is one of my like most inspirational people. Jay, I actually remember I heard someone was talking to Jay and said him, and they were like, oh, I'm so sorry. Sorry, how should I? And Jay, you stopped. I think, I don't know if it was Jay started this or the show started it, but Jay looked at her and said, anything with love and respect. And I remember like astral projecting out of my body being like, gosh, how do you just like hold all of this love for everybody who is experiencing you and trying to make you comfortable while being uncomfortable in themselves. And Jay is just like, this is who I am. And as long as you're being respectful and not trying to be a dick to me, basically, I'm going to meet you with that mutual respect. And it showed
it's like
me
an ethereal grace.
Yeah, I felt so inspired. And every time I spend time with them, I'm like, this is you have such a beautiful aura and presence that I'm always trying to soak up and try and mimic in my own life.
Yeah. Everybody go back and listen. We had Jay on here and we did sort of a Gospels according to Jay roundup.
Yes.
And I was talking about astral projecting. I was like I Jeff repelled through the ceiling. I just sat back. I didn't even need to ask any questions.
Yeah,
I just
100%.
listened
This is the hour where you, Jay, are going to speak and I'm just going to sit here and listen and learn. Yes.
Well, I want to listen and learn about you in Hadestown. Going down under just for a second, I have friends that work over there, actors on stage, actors off stage, behind the bar, doing their day job. And when you came to the Walter Kerr, there was such a bright light that I heard from multiple people just saying, Betty Who is wonderful. Betty Who is and people were so happy to have you there. And that's not always the case. I say that because with these shows, you hear from people, oh, this person's here. Now they won't even look us in the eye. They don't tip or whatever it is.
I'm trying to age into my diva era. Do you know what I mean?
Which
I'm
is
trying
great.
to really, in my 40s, I think, is probably when I'm going to become a stone cold bitch.
Oh, yeah. I look forward to that era as well.
Me too.
But before we get there, maybe that was your takeaway from the experience? Looking back on Hadestown, what was that experience like for you, being on Broadway?
Oh my gosh. It's hard to distill.
List item.
Yeah. I could talk about it for a million years. I can't tell you how much I loved it. I can't tell you how inspiring it was to me and how much it really changed my life. And it's like, I think we say that really like, oh my God, that pasta changed my life. We like say that a lot.
Sometimes.
And sometimes it's true, carbone. But that it really did like shift my perspective in so many ways. And I felt so grateful, and I think we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier. It's hard when you've worked your entire life to get somewhere that when you start getting there, you're a little bit like, yeah, I don't know though. I really tried hard and this really took a lot from me and I don't know how much this is worth it for me. And I think that's easy for me to feel in music because I do feel like I have so much, 10 years of relationship between me and this thing. And doing Hadestown, I didn't have anything but like, oh my God, I would love to do that one day. Like that's literally, and in my head and heart, I was like, there's probably no way, it's like we all wish for things and you have to be realistic and go, yeah, it's like, that would be amazing. But I just like, I can't imagine that that's ever going to happen. Yeah. And so for this opportunity to come around where I had no attachment to it, it was very like spiritual actually in that way where I was like, oh, I'm learning something about how I am coming in because I've come in with no expectation of how it's going to be, because I have no experience in this world. I really got to show up and just be like grateful. And I think that that's what made the experience so beautiful for me, is that I didn't have any sort of, prior trauma in the business, which is like, I go do anything in music and I'm like, yeah, I know, I've been here, it's like drags on a cigarette. I've been here, done that before, and it's, I think Hadestown.
The way you talk about it is it's in such a relationship setting about everything with your art, which is cool. It's sort of like me and the music, me and Broadway, versus saying there's this old ancient wisdom I don't know enough about to like really talk about, although I can make it up, where nowadays everyone says, oh, you're a genius, they're a genius. It's like we used to say back in the way, way, way down days, they have a genius, they have a creative genius. And it was sort of this part of you, but it was separate, which kind of separated the ego. Yeah. And it's sort of how you speak about this, which I think is just a cool observation.
Oh, that is an interesting observation. Yeah. And maybe it's just because I still like, it feels like a dream, especially like, it's funny because I don't live in New York. Being in New York for 6 months and doing this thing, I think it would be one thing if I lived in New York and I finished the show and then I like go back to my apartment the night that the show is over and I'm like, whoa, I don't have to do that anymore. But it's crazy to like then get on a plane and come home to LA and be in my house in LA that's the same house before I left for Hadestown. And it's kind of like, I went to, I went to Florida and all I got was this t-shirt. That's kind of how I feel. I'm like, I went to New York and was on Broadway and all I have is like some pictures and memories that feel like they're not even real because it was so dreamlike.
That's a merch line. I mean, I would buy
100%. But I really like, I feel so lucky. The show is so incredible. I do think that was also a huge thing for me of realizing like, oh, I couldn't do this if I was like, God, I hate this show. Like eight shows a week, eight shows a week, and having to do something that you don't really love. Every day I was on stage at Hadestown going, man, this show is transformative. It's like
so
I kept seeing things and learning things about the show. I was like 3 months, 4 months into the show still being like, oh, I've never even known, like there's so much art. It's living, breathing art in a way that comes around, you know, once a generation. It is one of those shows.
Oh yeah.
So to be a part of that specific show, and in the part that I got to be, you know, it's like Persephone is literally the you know, sunshine and you know, she brings summertime to the people of Earth. And so I think that was really tapping into that warmth for me. Felt really exciting and beautiful, and taught me a lot about sort of what it feels like physically to emanate in a different way than sort of, you know, when I'm like singing my own songs. It's like it taught me a lot about presence on stage. I learned so much. The couple shows I've done, Betty Who shows since Hadestown, I just feel like have been off the charts, like so much more grounded. And as a performer, I just feel so much so changed by it. And
it's so cool.
I just loved it. And everybody in the building. Yeah, that's what they say.
To quote another Broadway show, you know.
And the cast, you know what I mean? It's like it's such a small group of people, and I was so lucky. You know, Philip Boykin will forever be, you know, my number one stage husband, love of my life. You know, I've just Saleha Pfeiffer is like one of my best friends in the world now, and it's so rare to meet those people at this stage of your life where you go, oh, I've known you forever, and now we're just like, we're in this forever now.
Yeah.
So
so special about theater specifically and ensembles. You just feel like you have a family, honestly. And I'm sure you get that on the road too with Betty Who shows, I'm sure.
Absolutely. That tour bus. Yeah, we are in it together.
But what's your, I mean, okay, both of those take, I mean, 8 shows a week, especially Hadestown, which is a longer show and a lot going on. And then Betty Who on tour, I mean, what are the ways you show your self-kindness? Do you have sort of favorite ways for self-care and all that jazz?
Yeah, not enough. You know, I do
yeah,
think
we need
about,
advice, Betty.
Yeah, please help me, actually, because you have advice for me.
I'll show you a candle.
Yeah, please. I will say that in my first Broadway experience, like when I return, because I would love to. Because you
said you write musicals too, right?
I do, yeah. I'm currently working on one, so.
Okay, don't jinx it.
But, you know, when I return to that format, I think my goal would very much be to take better care of myself. Because I did feel very like I was just like surviving the weeks, like, and it happened so quick. And, you know, I heard Lilias White, the great Lilias White, absolute queen.
Yeah.
We were doing a talk back where the kids you get bussed in from schools on the Wednesday matinee, and then they get to stay and talk to the actors after the show for a little bit. And Lilias was on stage, and someone was like, asked her for advice, and she was like, listen, 8 shows a week, you never feel like doing it. And people don't understand that. She was like, maybe once a week, maybe Tuesday night, you're coming back from a day off, and you're like, I'm kind of excited to go do a show today. Every other show of the week, you're like, God, I can't believe I have to do this right now. And you have to find it. And I was like, that is so fucking real, Lilias, because
I love that.
It comes at you so fast, and there's never enough recovery time. And so I think I was finding the format and understanding what it was. But I think if I come back, I would really love to prioritize making more time for myself to especially my body. It just like you get so beat up. But on tour, you know, we're pretty good. It's great because I have dancers doing my Betty Who show, which means that, you know, they are very, they're usually very good about taking care of their own bodies because you have to. And I think because I didn't start as a dancer, I'm such a like musician who just like wants to be a dancer. I think I've learned so much from them.
Mover.
Yeah, I'm a big mover energy.
Strong mover,
that I've had to learn from them about sort of maintenance and stretching and all of that. We're really militant about warming up. It's at Hadestown, never. Always rushing to places. Like me and Saleha, the last people running down to the stage for places. So Hadestown is not a good example. But on the Betty Who tour, it's like I finish meet and greet, and then there's like 2.5 hours before the show, and I spend that basically entire time warming up. Like my voice, my body, taking it really slow, taking it easy. I like to have so much time. So I think that's the kindness that I've shown myself now, is just like not the rush of it, oh my God, we have to go to, it's 15 minutes and I'm not dressed.
Yeah.
Like, I like to be dressed an hour before show. Again, Hadestown, horrible example. Calling places, putting my dress on. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Well, there's nothing more wild than like you finish a show and then you walk out of it after performing. You're like, I feel so warmed up now. I could do a whole show. And it's like, well, maybe you should have spent 2 hours before, like you're
100%.
saying. I think
Wouldn't
that's
that be
really
nice?
helpful.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be nice?
Oh, it would.
It would not be nice to end our time together. Do you mind if we just go a couple minutes over?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay, cool.
I have
like
nothing.
87
You're good.
more questions
Yeah,
for
great.
you, but I'm going to avoid them because I want to respect your time and be militant about that. So just like a couple more things. The one, I could ask you about Broadway all day, honestly, but there's one song that kept like coming up for me in sort of your repertoire as we were talking. It's called The Old Me. Maybe not one you would have thought that
Heck, yes.
would bring up.
Okay.
But it made me curious. You know, it's kind of all about finding joy and feeling like that old version of yourself. It's a very relatable song, you know, getting your old self back again. Big question alert. But what would you say sort of is the old version of you, or like kind of the best version of you that you romanticize or look on to?
I think that song specifically is really about releasing yourself from like some kind of probably relationship. For me, it was about a record label. For other people who have been like, have come to me and talked to me about that song, it's like, I was divorced and this song was like my theme song when I got a divorce, whatever it is. I think when we're in situations or relationships that make us feel not like ourselves. So I think to me, like the old me is not really about like when I was 22 and skinnier and like my knees didn't crack so much. It's more like when, you know, it's
as I move my knees.
Yeah. As they just like snap, crackle, pop. For me, the old me is really about like connecting to that part of yourself where you're like, oh, I'm free. I think it's about freedom to be yourself and to not be thinking about somebody else's reaction all the time. You know, I think especially when you're in like spooky relationships where you're like, oh my God, I know if I say I'm damned if I do and I'm damned if I don't. And then you're sort of in this constant pattern of trying to appease somebody else's wants and needs. And so when you finally get to go, what do I want actually? That experience, I think that's really what that song is about for me. And that's when I think about like the old me, it's like, you know, I guess what if I'm romanticizing myself, it's like being on stage. I'm like, oh my God, I just want to like, I don't want to be overthinking and I don't want to be trying to get to the place where I get to be on stage. Like that is absolutely the place where I feel the most free and sort of alive, lit up, is being in front of people and sharing my songs. You know, it doesn't have to be my songs, but sharing experience, I think. I'm like a games I love games. You know what I mean? If like my friends come over for a birthday, I'm like, cool, we're playing charades. And then when charades is done, we're going to play this next game. And then when that's done, we're playing Rummy 500 until it's 4 a.m. You know, everyone's like, can we take a break? And I'm like, no, activities.
Have you done Jack in the Box? You know, the one on your TV where everyone has on their phone.
Oh, of course, on your phone. Yes.
Such
Iconic.
a good time.
Yeah.
Not that we want to be on our phones. But wait, this is too perfect because I do have a surprise game. And so I just feel like we're talking about games.
I love a game.
Okay. This is a quick game. I promise you it won't take too much long. It's really dumb. It's called the compliment game. It's like not even much of a game. And basically, Betty, I reached out to someone in your life for a loving statement about you. And then I'm going to read it to you, and you have to guess who said it.
Okay, fun.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And I have a cheesy theme song that I can put in later
please.
on.
Great.
Everyone's beautiful in their own way. It's the compliment game on the AOK. It's the compliment game.
Okay, so I'm gonna read you this compliment
I'm
here,
nervous.
and then I'll.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Then there's no rules. Like I'll try to help you. You can ask me yes or no questions. We'll say you get 3 guesses because one time someone really got mad at me that there were no rules. So there you go.
I understand.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. This is actually really beautiful. Okay. You are a profoundly kind soul. Your compassion and care extend to so many people: your family, your friends, your fans. Your work ethic is phenomenal. You have a wicked sense of humor and a sharp, quick intellect. Your joy is like a light in a dimly lit room. You are cheeky and playful. You make us all laugh when you perform your goosey emu. You believe in a world where the best of humanity thrives and where honesty is paramount. You are an absolute delight to know. You have taken the best from both of us.
Gotta be my parents. Gotta be my mom. Is it my mom?
love from your Muddy.
Yeah, Mutti.
Cynthia.
Mutti.
Mom. Mutti.
Yeah.
Okay, Mutti.
It's mother in German. Yeah. Mutti.
There we go. See,
Wait.
I only know about Gatlinburg.
You know,
Pigeon Forge. Okay.
Pigeon Forge and Dollywood. That is so funny. She gave herself away with both of us. You took the best from both of us. That was a giveaway.
Yes.
And the emu, because I am a goose, but when I kiss her, I wind up and you know what I mean? And so that's
beautiful.
That's the goosey emu. So she gave herself away a couple times there. I thought for a second it might be Saleya, you know, like calling me silly. I was like, oh, if it's silly, but then, yeah.
I know. I was going to reach out to Hadestown peeps, but then I just got one from your mom, and I was like, this is kind of too perfect. I'm just, like, what a joy. What a beacon of light via email, too. She's such a lovely person.
Yeah, that's really where I get it. She's very, all of the parts of me that are very, like, shiny and warm really come from her. All of the wicked and silly stuff comes from my dad, but she is, like, truly sunshine in a person. She's very gifted in that way of making people feel safe. And she used to be in personal development, so she would like do seminars with people talking about really intense stuff and trying to bring the best out of them. And so I think that part of her that was like on stage running things is really where I get my sort of ability to hold space. She is really gifted, and that's really sweet, and I love her very much.
Thank you, Cynthia. That's so
Mama.
sweet.
Yeah.
And I sort of like the balance of like talking about kindness. I never want it to be preachy. I like things to be a little bit unhinged, but also rooted in kindness. So it sounds like both your parents kind of give you that nice, like it doesn't have to be all puppies and rainbows. It can be a little like,
absolutely. Yeah, no, they're very, you know, my dad is very, you know, I think I said wicked already, but he has that sort of sense of humor that you have to sort of know him and love him and get it. And I think that I've had to walk it back a little bit in my professional life. But that's something that they're both, you know, I think there's a lot of balance. I am a Libra, so there's a lot of balance in my life from both of them. And we kind of joke because I married a Sagittarius who's like the most intense person of all time.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I'm like, how did this happen where you just like have to be like balls to the wall? And I'm just like, can we? I really do connect to the girl in Mean Girls who's like, I just want to like
I knew who you
bake a cake full of rainbows. Yeah, why can't we all just be friends?
So you
I am. I know, because that really is me. This She Doesn't Even Go Here girl is very me coded.
I love that. I could die. Yeah. She doesn't even go here. I didn't even get to your baking. I didn't even get to the video you just posted Sunday in the Park with George. I had so many things, but we run out of time.
I know. Move on. That song. I will tell you, driving into New York on the plane, getting ready, like moving to New York for my first days of rehearsals for Hadestown, I was listening to musical theater on the plane, like getting myself into the spirit. And I will tell you, I had never heard Sunday in the Park with George all the way through. I'd never heard all the music. I've never seen it. I know, look, I made a hat. You know, there are things that on it that I had heard before, but I had never heard Move On. And I was listening to Move On, and it like actually... The first chorus hit as I was driving in from JFK across the bridge, and the whole city was there, and it was just like, wow, oh, this is like a whole new chapter in my life, and I have to let go everything that I have been holding on to and have all this pain and trauma about, and I just have to like move forward into this thing. So that Sondheim really, one of my number one favorite songwriters on the planet. Yeah.
Oh, same. Move On. Such a beautiful song. And your cover, if you haven't seen it, everybody, go to Betty's Instagram page. I don't know where it will be in the grid by the time this comes out, but it's worth searching for because it's beautiful. That tone, that like, I can't even, the air, your breath.
Oh, so much air. I had a producer call me a windy lady one time because of so much air.
That's a gift.
So that's me, windy lady. Yeah.
Paint with all the colors of the wind. That's what I say.
God, I love that song.
Yeah, let's go into that. I need so many covers.
Alan Menken, I know we need
Broadway
a couple
concert.
Hours. Yeah.
Yeah, I could talk to you for hours, but I'm going to let you go and be respectful of your time. The one thing I would love for you to leave us with is a tangible kindness tip. So something you would like for listeners to do out there on their own corner just to try and make the world a little brighter. Well, I've said brighter like I was kind of British, but I'm not.
A little brighter.
A little brighter. I am auditioning for something like that. Okay.
Good for you. Wow. I locked into that accent really quick, too. I like that.
You did. It was good.
I'm going to bring it full circle to what we started with because I'm a big compliment girly. I give a lot of compliments. I tend to receive a lot of compliments, especially from strangers. But I think that's because when you have an aura of like openness, people then like receive that and feel it back, and they want to share it. And so I think my tangible kindness tip is if you see somebody and you think something nice about them in your head, share it with them. We all want to feel it, and if they receive it a little weird, that's fine. It's you're trying to spread kindness. You don't need them to be like, oh my God, we're best friends now. It's just like taking someone and saying, hey, I really love this about you. I just was noticing you. That's it. You know, it doesn't. You don't need to receive anything back. But I think that full circle. I think, you know, you hear stories about it takes one small act of kindness to change somebody's day, to change the trajectory of their life. And I think that sharing how we feel, and when we see each other and sharing that instantaneously, as opposed to just holding on to it, you know, and I think that's my tangible kindness.
I love it. I love it.
I love
yes,
it.
The tangible tip. Oh, I love it. Well, because I think it's sort of like the positive version of if you see something, say something. And we see that sign everywhere.
1,000,000%.
Doesn't always have to be negative. You know, we hang up that sign for the negative, which is
for
we
the
need,
backpacks.
you know, for safety.
Totally.
But for the backpacks.
For the
but
scary
also,
backpacks,
like, it could be nice. You know, if
Yeah,
you see something,
absolutely.
say something in someone. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
And
Moving the needle a little bit forward as far as like other people's confidence. You know, I think it's really, we all, especially like if you think about how you speak to yourself and, you know, in your darkest moments, like how dark and sad and horrible that can be, we all have that inside of ourselves where we're all like turning that sort of monster in on ourselves. And so to be the person who just stops someone in the middle of their day when they might be having that conversation with themselves, being like, I'm a piece of shit, you know, all this stuff, and you go, hey, I love that outfit on you, just like your energy is so beautiful, like could completely stop that pattern inside of that person's head from continuing on and like creating real harm inside of themselves, and we can do that for each other.
Yeah, because if someone cuts you off when you're walking or does something kind of rude, you immediately have that reaction. But training ourselves to just be like, walking around like Amy Adams in Enchanted, you know, like singing and being like, it's beautiful. And there's cartoons
100%.
everywhere.
Yeah. Happy little working
1000%.
song.
Happy little working song. Well, Betty, I'm singing a happy little working song in my brain right now because I had so much fun with you. It was so great to share a little audio space with you. And
Thank you for having me.
Of course. And I'm so grateful that we have someone like you to look up to in this biz.
I look up to you. This is so nice for us. We look across at each other.
Yes. Well, I literally look up to you because I'm short. I'm a
Yeah.
short.
Yeah.
I'm a
Short king. Yeah.
I'm
I
not
love that
too
about
short,
you.
though. I want to be tall. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm not the tallest poppy, I will say, to bring this baby full circle.
I love that about you. I ride for a short king. I married one. I
Thank
forever
you.
will be lifting up both literally and metaphorically short kings everywhere.
Yes. Love lifts us up where we belong. And I thank you so much.